Hello, everybody, and welcome to VOW Live, Voices of Wrestling Live. I'm Rob McCarron, joined that way by Rich Kraetsch. At Voices Wrestling is the Twitter handle. Rich, we're going to get into some things tonight. I have a couple of things to go over before we fully kick off. But, oh my God, 1 to 5 rating for that show.
Oh, man, hard to not go with 5. I mean, everything just about. I mean, you really, honestly, you think about the worst match of the entire night. I mean, when you say relative worst was, Baron Corbin versus Austin Aries, and that was fine. Like, it was pretty good. And that's like the no doubt worst match on the entire card. And that's, like I said, not bad. And I'm sure you would agree with that as well. So when you look at it from that context, like, it's spectacular. I love the opener. I went 4.5 for the opener. I thought that was spectacular. And then obviously you got Nakamura and Zayn. I went the full 5 on that. All of our reviewers, Alex Wendland, Taylor Mitchell, Aaron Bentley, who unfortunately his stream stopped working during that match, which I feel horrible for him. But the rest of us went 5. So when you talk about that, when you talk about a 4.5 star, a 5.5, and the worst match of the night was what? 2.5, 3 is basically what I went. I mean, it was a spectacular show all around. And the main event had some weirdness to it, but was awesome. I still enjoyed it. And then the Bayley Asuka match was incredible as well. So when you do that, it's hard not to give it a 5.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I want to thank everyone who is joining us on the Voices of Wrestling YouTube.
Thank you.
voicesofwrestling.com/YouTube. If you haven't subscribed already, I hope that, if you're still waiting to see what we're all about, that we...
This is it.
That we do good for you, and that you consider throwing us a subscription. Hit the thumbs up button on the video. Hit that like button. It would help us out greatly. But I want to thank everyone. Right now, we're creeping towards 100 people watching streaming live right now at the moment. A ton of people.
A lot of pressure.
I
don't know, Rob. I don't know if I'm in for this now.
There's pressure on you, Rich. It's all you, because you're the draw. I mean, when Joe is on and when you're on, we draw money. When I'm on solo, I can't beg people to watch.
Well, no, I think we can now with clarity say that it's Shinsuke Nakamura that draws us every single time, because there was one where you went on your own, but it was about Shinsuke, and that did well. So basically, we just need to always talk about him. Like, even if he's not doing anything, we got to go like Poochie style with him, and just when he's not on camera, talk about what else he's doing or what he could be doing. So that's fine. We'll go itchy scratchy and Poochie style. But
I'm up for that.
You, Jeff, and Shinsuke. So yes,
Shinsuke Nakamura, the complete draw, and Shinsuke Nakamura. We're gonna get into the show. I'm hyped for the show. I texted you. I never text you.
Oh, I don't even. I think I threw my phone away. Where's my phone?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me confirm that I have a Rob McCarron text.
I never text people. Occasionally,
there it is. There, I see it right there.
Occasionally, I text Jeff every once in a while, usually to cancel a show. But I text after that Shinsuke match because you know where I watched this match?
I don't.
In my car.
Oh, you're driving between stuff?
I was driving between. I was trying to get here. I watched the first match, then had to drive home, and the Shinsuke Nakamura match is happening right after the Austin Aries match. And I'm like, I just have to pull over. I have to stop and watch this. I'm thinking I'm going to listen to it. I'll watch the whole thing when I get here. I'll skip all the commercial breaks and I'll be in time for the show. I had to pull over, watch this match, because Shinsuke Nakamura, if you were worried.
I don't know how that's safe to drive and watch.
Oh, I didn't drive while watching it.
Okay, good. Okay, I was going to say.
I pulled over.
That's not good. Don't do that. No,
I pulled over. And watched in my car. And then when the match ended, I continued on my way to get back to Studio City here. If you were worried that Shinsuke Nakamura wasn't going to come in and be Shinsuke Nakamura, that he might have had Hideo Itami disease and scaled back a little bit, fear not. That was Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, other than the music, changing a little bit, and there were people I know on Twitter that were like, "Oh, Subconscious was so much better." His music in New Japan, which I agree. I think this music was okay, but not as good. But that's the only thing. Like, everything else about him, from his attire was the same. People worried about, what are they going to call him? Are they going to call him Nakamura? And I still think that might be in the long-term plans, and that's just something they do with a lot of guys. Shake off that first name, especially if it's kind of a weird first name or whatever. I'm not worried about that, but it didn't matter. He came out as Shinsuke Nakamura. He did the exact same mannerisms. For all intents and purposes, his entrance was exactly the same. And then he stiffed the hell out of Sami Zayn the entire match and just had a legit New Japan main event match. That could have been on Invasion Attack and would have looked not out of place whatsoever.
It's amazing because I came on. I'm like, I'm going to get through my little windmill of things I have to say before we get right into Shinsuke Nakamura. I wanted to talk about the Shinsuke Nakamura as soon as the match happened. I'm like, I'm texting you. I'm like, cancel the post game show. We just got to talk about this right now. No, that match was absolutely incredible. We are going to talk a whole lot of Shinsuke Nakamura, believe me. I want to thank everyone watching in the chat room. At Voices Wrestling is the Twitter. My Twitter is at Shake Them Ropes. We are going to be live also on Sunday night after WrestleMania. So if you like this post show and want to get hyped for WrestleMania and talk about it with others, we're going to do a post show on Sunday, and my guest will be Joe Lanza. So we're going to get the other half of the Voices of Wrestling podcast coming up here on Sunday night. We're also going to be live Monday after the crazy post WrestleMania Raw. So we're going to be right here live on Monday.
That's gonna be nuts too. There's just so much going on.
So much going on, and I'm watching this NXT show, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is the best commercial ever. Vince is a goddamn genius. Vince McMahon is a goddamn genius. Because if you weren't hyped for WrestleMania coming into this show and thinking, oh, I'm all about Takeover, I want to see more wrestling. I can't wait till Sunday now.
Oh yeah, no, like I've been watching wrestling now since today. I started watching the Evolve. I watched Evolve 58. I watched the first hour of it at work before I'd left. It's a Friday afternoon. You're allowed to do that. But so I've been watching nonstop since about 4 p.m. today, and my buddy just put on WrestleMania 17, and I'm like, I'm tired, but you know what? I'm just gonna stay. Like I think I'm just gonna watch it for the next 3 hours. Like why not? Because I'm just so this is, and I'm sure you remember this as well. It was the Sami Zayn Neville match. From Takeover. Now I'm blanking on the subtitle of that Takeover.
All the subtitles blend together, so it's okay.
I have no idea what they are anymore. But you remember that. You guys went, and I called you and said I was walking my dogs because I was so hyped and I couldn't go to bed. I was exhausted. And those poor dogs, I walked them a mile and a half. It's just they're all right, it's 11, we can go now. And I'm like,
but do you get what I'm saying now, right? Like you just have, when you have to watch it, no matter what you're doing. And I mean, I don't know if this is going to last for 2 days until WrestleMania now, but I am hyped for WrestleMania. Rich Kraetsch, obviously, Rob McCarron here. voicesofwrestling.com/WWE shop is the link. There are new Shinsuke Nakamura shirts. They may already be sold out. I don't know.
I didn't check. I would not be surprised.
They are sold out in Dallas. They have no more shirts in Dallas.
That's crazy.
They're all sold out. They came and they brought extras. I don't get a lot of scoops, but when I do, I get really stupid, innocuous scoops. And one of the scoops I got was they legit sold out of all the shirts. They doubled them thinking that, of course, 6,000 people are going to want these shirts. They sold out before the doors opened.
Jesus.
They sold out of the shirts before the doors opened.
Number on how many people were at NXT, or a rough idea?
At NXT, they set it up for 6,500.
Okay.
Yeah, which is about the max of what that place can hold. It actually, if you go in there,
sure. I mean, it looked like there wasn't an empty. I mean, there were a few areas in the arena where you could have stuffed seats if you really wanted to. Yeah. But whatever they put it for, it looked like just about every seat was taken. We knew from the secondary market that they'd be silly to not fill.
I know personally. Yeah, from the secondary market, I originally got a face value ticket. I ended up not being able to go. I sold it on StubHub, and even after the fees, I made a 700% profit.
That's not bad.
It's craziness. If you went to NXT Takeover with my ticket, I hope you had a hell of a time. Please like the video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, help us out. We're doing 3 live shows this weekend, going all out. So hopefully we provide something that you enjoy. Right now, I'm blown away by, we've had a good traction with some of our live shows. Right now we have almost 200 people watching, which is much more than I expected at 12:30 in the morning. So I mean, I know Rich appreciates it. I know I appreciate it.
They're like us. They can't go to sleep.
I know.
I want to go to sleep. I'm exhausted.
There's no sleeping. I mean, I have 2 pens for Christ's sake here. I have, I don't even know which one to open and close. I'm just so hyped. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my hands.
I'm sitting on the floor for God's sakes. What am I doing?
Yeah, you're just ready to go watch another Takeover. I may have to watch the whole thing over again at the end of this, but we have voicesofwrestling.com/WWE shop. If you want to check out the new stuff that's going online through WrestleMania and Takeover, all the new shirts, and support this show, go to voicesofwrestling.com/WWE shop. I talked about how we're going to do a show Sunday and Monday. If you were wondering, originally I thought we might take calls during this show, but because of the late hour, because of how much we have to talk about now, we're not going to take calls tonight. We might take them on Sunday. We're definitely taking them Monday. So if you want to do a call-in show, join us on Monday at Voices Wrestling here. But that's pretty much it. I think that's all the BS stuff I have to get through. I don't want to talk about the first 2 matches yet. I want to talk Shinsuke Nakamura. This is the main event. The main event of the show. Yes. It was Shinsuke Nakamura. It was Sami Zayn. Let's start from the beginning. Sami Zayn comes out. This crowd is going absolutely nuts. They were not being anti-Zayn. If anyone was wondering, they were not anti-Zayn because they were so pro Nakamura. They were pro both of these guys.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool aspect of it is because I was worried that when Zayn came out, he would sort of get a tepid reaction because it was like, all right, cool, you're out, but we really care about this guy. But he got a huge reaction. It was like they were just pumped. It was a classic. We just want to see these guys wrestle. We don't care who A is, who B is. We just want to see both of them go and wrestle. And I thought that was really cool that Zayn came out and just had a huge pop. And then I was like, oh, maybe Nakamura's not going to have that good of a pop. And then he had an insane one. And then the crowd was just completely. I mean, that crowd for that match was one of the best atmospheres I've seen for it. Like, I think I put it up on Twitter where, we sort of laughed about it, and it was on the Voice of Wrestling that Joe and I did, and we were talking about the secondary market for Takeover and how, like, oh man, who's going to pay $500 to go see Takeover?
Right.
Oh, that's too much money. And then the bell rang and the crowd went nuts, and I went, I would give anything to be there. Like, like $500, screw it. I don't like that. I would have. That was a priceless moment to be there. It was surreal just hearing that crowd from the opening bell, and then it just kept going on. Like if that match, even if it was a disappointing match, or even if the match just didn't quite deliver what we thought, just that atmosphere alone would have been enough. But then it ended up being just a spectacular, great match. So it's the best of both worlds.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the atmosphere during this match, but we'll talk about the little things. Shinsuke Nakamura, yes. While I agree that the theme music doesn't necessarily fit him super well, and maybe he'll grow into it, I love the music. Shinsuke Nakamura's theme music would fit really well with somebody. I just don't know if he's doing those mannerisms and he's looking for a moment to do it all, and it's not subconscious. You're right, but I love the theme music. I think they really do a good job with that music. It had kind of like a live Damian. Do you know Damian Rice?
Yes, yeah.
It kind of had a live, like if Damian Rice was finished with a song and then just with his band kind of went crazy and jammed for a little bit. It was a Damian Rice jam.
That it was kind of, and that's a part that I liked about it too, is it was sort of like an unbalanced, like him coming out to a very like calm or like just a song that makes sense. It had to be sort of radical. It had to be kind of weird. And there was that one part where he's halfway down the ramp and there's like a breakdown of the drums and he just has to do, Nakamura things. And it's like, that's perfect. Like that's exactly what Nakamura needs to come out to. So that was a cool aspect as well.
It's different music than what you normally hear. It's not the stereotypical Japanese music that they sometimes do. And
that's true. That it wasn't like the flute. It wasn't it wasn't the Oriental Express one. That was good.
I had high hopes that it wouldn't be because, I mean, you look at Asuka's music. I love Asuka's music.
Awesome.
The NXT music that they're making for a lot of these people, and that's funny when we get to Austin Aries, because Austin Aries is like super bland music. Like, ironic that they would give him the super bland music too. But
I think it was Wade Keller who tweeted out a little bit, or while the show was going on, and he said it's interesting, this phenomenon that when guys come out in NXT or guys or girls, I turn the volume up because it's like these songs are awesome. Like my buddy and I, we were driving one day, and I remember I put on the NXT. It's on Spotify, a lot of these songs, and we were listening to those NXT songs for like 2 hours because they're actually like a standalone songs. They're kind of cool too. They get into like a nice little rhythm, and they fit the characters so well in a lot of ways. Like you mentioned the Austin Aries one, in a way, like it's ironic, but it's like it kind of does like it just seems like they've been able to harness that so well. And this song fit him. Sami Zayn songs fit him, and so for this particular match, it was just like the aesthetics before the match had even begun were already perfect, and the lighting for Nakamura's entrance too was incredible too. The dim with the red, and then the light. It's just everything was perfect. I mean, they nailed it.
I will say, I mean, it does what theme music is supposed to do. It got you excited for these guys to come out. You finally see Shinsuke Nakamura. Of course, the crowd is doing what you expected them to do. They're doing the holy shit. They're doing the this is awesome before the match even starts. Because look what you had in the ring. You had Sami Zayn. You had Shinsuke Nakamura in the WWE ring on WrestleMania weekend. It was an insane atmosphere.
Just seeing that hashtag up there was like surreal. It was like Zayn versus Nakamura, and I'm like, what?
And I loved, and we'll get into this match, I love the absolute story of this match because here you had Sami Zayn, who was comfortable. NXT is his place. He's wondering, can Shinsuke come under the pressure of being in WWE? And then you go through the match, and guess what? It's Shinsuke Nakamura who is controlling the pace and what type of match it is, and now Sami Zayn had to adjust to him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's just it, because you had this outsider. And it played so well with the rest of the show. It played with the women's title match too. You had this outsider come in, and the outsiders are taking over.
Yeah. Real quick, do you know who's listening to the show right now or who's watching it?
Well, your roommate.
Well, he is. Yes, he is. Yeah. He's actually watching it. But the Great Power Uti.
The Great Power Uti
is watching us right. He asked, "Who is Rob and who is Rich?"
Well,
that is former CWA World Heavyweight Champion. I think he still is, because
Mr. Power Uti. I loved your match with Doc Gallows. I did. It's a legit match that's out there. People go watch it. Doc Gallows.
Yeah, so there we go. I mean now I'm under. You were mentioning the amount of people. That's one man that now he is watching, and now I'm just going to be frazzled.
I'm a little speechless.
I can't like I don't know what to. I'm just going to close my laptop and run away because it's just too much pressure. But yeah, no. I love this because that was the other concern I had as well, and that's what Joe and I sort of alluded to on the show. Is like, okay, are we going to get the same thing where Nakamura walks in and he's kind of on eggshells, not quite sure what to do? Oh, hey, I don't want to hit this guy with my knee. I don't want to, stiff him too hard, or I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. He just went in there, for better or for worse. I'm going to say for better. Vince McMahon may disagree with somebody, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
That maybe, he just said, screw it. I'm going to have my style match. And Zayn said, you know what? Don't change a thing. I'll work with you. I'll do whatever. And that was clear as day is what it was. I mean, that Zayn I think Zayn did fantastic in this match, but for all intents and purposes, again, he basically played the role of another guy. And, it could have been Tomohiro Ishii in there. It could have been, it was just like, and Zayn had his, obviously his signature spots that helped out with it. But a lot of it was, Nakamura having a Nakamura style match or something that we're familiar with in New Japan, and then Zayn sort of working with it, and that's a testament to Zayn as well. Is that's a guy who we see on the main roster. People have said he's sort of maybe kind of disappointing thus far on doing those TV matches and that sort of stuff. But he's a guy who can adapt so well, and we saw that with this match where he, how long did these guys honestly have to even talk about this match if we really think about it? I mean, they knew it was booked for a while, but there was so much else going on with Nakamura and all that other stuff. But to have it go and be as fluid as it was, and it was spectacular. It was just everything that they did from the beginning to the end were just it just clicked. Everything clicked. Everything just was perfect. It's close to I mean, I gave it 5 stars. That's a perfect match to me. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and it was like we alluded to at the beginning. It was a Shinsuke Nakamura match. You're right. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura came in. He was Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm just watching this and I'm wondering, okay, when does it pick up? Will it pick up? Will it pick up to the expectations? And for a match that was so hyped, it not only met expectations, but I think it probably outdid a lot of people's expectations. And if you were someone who was unfamiliar with Shinsuke Nakamura, which no one in that building was unfamiliar with Shinsuke Nakamura, I mean, they did to the point where they did the yow. I mean, because you don't see that a lot. You know the signature, the name, you may know a signature spot or two, but you really kind of have to know who Shinsuke Nakamura is a little bit deeper than the most outside kind of casual observation to know some of the more specific stuff. And they were doing the yow with him, and he didn't even know if they would do it, so he kind of just got it out of the way.
Right.
He was like, I don't know if they're going to know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
so
let me just try this in case I look like an idiot who's just like.
Yeah, but it's like if Kane had come out and done the Rising the Fire, but he did it by the announce table while no one was watching.
Exactly right. Well, and that speaks to something I've talked about a lot, both on Twitter and on different podcasts, is that we sort of assume that the wrestling bubble is still this very small thing, and it's like it's not that hard to find a lot of Shinsuke Nakamura matches, especially when WWE's tweeting about him and putting out press releases and all that sort of stuff. Because we saw that, and I think someone else on Twitter, and I'm not going to credit them because unfortunately I forgot who they were, but they had a great point that
it was me actually.
Show going on at this exact same time, and that's what you would you consider that your hardcore fan base or whatever. In a lot of ways, people considered Ring of Honor to be that or whatever. There was a whole Ring of Honor show going on at this exact same time. And all of these people, all the 6,000 plus or whatever, I would say a good 75% were familiar with who Shinsuke Nakamura was, for better, whichever way. And then, like you said, we're aware of his chants. We're aware of his spots. They knew when the Boomier was coming. They knew when different knee strikes were coming. This wasn't just a fan base that said, oh, he's the guy who like dances around and occasionally, like you said, oh, maybe he does the knee. I don't remember when, or I don't know how he sets it up, but it's a cool finisher. They knew everything. They stayed with it the entire time and were just with him, hand in hand, which is awesome. It just speaks, it speaks to a larger point of how aware, that fan base, at least NXT, the majority of that fan base was of who he was while the Ring of Honor show was going on. So that's a other, it just speaks to how big this bubble is becoming. It's maybe not a bubble anymore. It's
the bubble. Yeah. It's not, it's a big one. I mean, if you had a blister on your finger this size, you would have to go to the doctor and check this out, because this community that knows who Shinsuke Nakamura, I do actually, but it's going away. Starting to throw the baseball a little bit, so I'm getting blisters all over my hands.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't started yet. Well, I get this guy from I play softball, and that's from the batting cages. I get that guy. That gets the callus though. It just stays there.
So Shinsuke Nakamura, and of course, I mean, maybe the least important point of this whole thing is Shinsuke Nakamura gets the win. He beats Sami Zayn they gave a new name for the Bombayé.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the name.
Same move, but they're giving it a new name. They're making it their own, which is interesting because WWE's website, when they put Shinsuke Nakamura on the roster, and they had the Bombayé listed as his finisher. So this was a more recent decision that they decided to change the name. Probably Vince McMahon got in there yesterday and said, okay, what do we got with this Shinsuke fella? Go through everything. And he wanted to change something to make it his. And the only thing he could change was the name of the finish. So
and that's fine. I think the name's fine, and it at least has a little bit of a tie-in with the Bombayé as well, which is cool. It's for people that don't know, it's I pronounce it as it's Kinshasa or Kinshasa. Corey changed like twice saying it, but it's essentially it was the city in Zaire where the Rumble in the Jungle happened, where the Bombayé became famous, that sort of phrase from Muhammad Ali. So it's got a connection to that too. And that's cool. I like when it's that. It's not a completely different, they're not calling it a running knee strike or the Nakamura knee or something. You know what I mean? Like it's got a connection to the Bombayé, and that's cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a better name than the knee plus. So, I mean, that's always a plus. Before we go into the next ones, we had the Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, outstanding. I can't wait to see Shinsuke Nakamura more in NXT. Manny Andrade, the former La Sombra, beat Chris Gerard, the former Biff Busick, in the dark match. And then in what was supposed to be on the main show, but thankfully it wasn't because I wanted all the time in the world for that Shinsuke match, Apollo Crews beat Elias Sampson in the dark match. So Apollo Crews getting the win there as we head into TV. So that match, I would imagine, probably makes TV. Since they had advertised it for TakeOver.
Yeah, and that's a fairly big match in their canon as well. I mean, that was one that was built up. But yeah, it would have seemed out of place on this. I mean, no offense to those guys, but it was like the timing of every single match on this show was perfect. Everything got enough room to sort of breathe a little bit. The post-match too, it never felt, and that's something I love about NXT and these specials too. They do such a good job letting the finish breathe. Like Asuka beating Bayley wasn't just, oh my God, Asuka won. Asuka gets the title and then she runs out. There's that weird stare down. You get the Bayley sort of writhing in pain. You get Asuka slowly looking out of the ring, looking at her. Doing that's something I love. Like just give these guys time, let it breathe a little bit. There's so often we see in major wrestling promotions, and that's not just WWE. Every company's guilty of it. Is the match ends and then like within 10 seconds, everyone's out of the ring and they're getting ready for the next match. It's like, now let it breathe a little bit, let it sort of simmer a little bit, because that's where you get a lot of the emotion and a lot of the character work. And that stuff is sort of those interactions. So I love that. I love the timing. So, it sucks that those guys got bumped out of it, but I wouldn't change a thing about the time, the match placement either. I thought the match structure, how it was laid out was perfect too. Cause it was tough to follow Nakamura and Zayn. I mean, that was almost an impossible thing, but I think Asuka and Bayley did a pretty damn good job of it.
Oh yeah, no, they were. I liked it a lot, and I certainly enjoyed the finish. At Shake Them Ropes is the Twitter handle. Just a couple of tweets I wanted to get to. Ted on Twitter says he was live at the show in the second row. The show was beyond words. So obviously, someone who was live there really enjoyed that show. We have AJ on Twitter who is wondering if Finn Balor, and there's been rumors, of course, about Finn Balor and the Balor Club, if Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows are going to come up. And, NXT announced a tour of Europe, and they're going to the 3 Arena in Dublin, which is a huge arena. And they're wondering how are they going to fill it if Finn Balor, who is not advertised for that show, I don't believe. They're actually bringing in, I think they're bringing in Sheamus and Becky Lynch to try and sell that show. So I don't know what's going on with Finn Balor. We'll find out maybe this weekend. But the place is huge. The main roster might have problems filling it, so NXT would certainly have problems filling it. So it's a lot of stuff going on there. And AJ wonders also if they change the Bombayé because it sounds too much like Bomb.
That's an interesting one. It might just be, yeah. It kind of sounds like Bombs Away.
I think it's a factor of both that plus, it is one thing they wanted to make their own.
I think you're absolutely. I think knowing the mentality of Vince McMahon and knowing that he probably went in there and said, hey, what about this, and this, and they were kind of like, and he's like, fine, here, just change the name of the damn finish so I can feel like, what I mean, like he didn't storm him out of the meeting, but like, okay, fine, do whatever you want to do, but I get one thing, that's it, okay, like now I'm done, like now I feel like I've put my personal touch on your character because nothing else was changed, and that's just that still blows my mind of the colors down to the colors, the
everything,
ring attire, nothing, zero.
It's Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, hey, if you're going to promote the network in Japan too, you want Nakamura to look like Nakamura. So good on them. I imagine the backstage meeting being Vince said, well, let's find a new name for the finisher. And everyone's patting him on the back. Great job, Vince. Well done.
Exactly.
You made this guy. You made this guy. Interesting too. Note quickly, Kota Ibushi was live ringside sitting with Funaki at NXT Takeover. I don't believe they showed him on camera. If they did, I missed it while I was driving.
No, they were. They showed. It was after.
Okay.
Match was it? I forgot what match it was. Maybe after. I'm blanking on what match it was, but they went ringside, and it's interesting enough. So they showed Kota Ibushi, they showed Funaki there. They went, oh, that's, Kota Ibushi. Or they got really quiet for a second. And Corey Graves went, oh, that's Kota Ibushi. He goes, we have this global cruiserweight thing.
Yeah.
A little bit. And it was like,
I missed it.
Wink, nudge, nudge, Kota Ibushi's in the global. I mean, they couldn't have made it more obvious than saying global cruiserweight participant Kota Ibushi. They might as well have said that because Corey Graves was like, huh, that's weird. We have a cruiserweight tournament coming up.
Yeah.
Like, how convenient that Kota Ibushi. So it was made very obvious that Kota Ibushi is going to be in that thing. So.
And it looks like Bobby Roode is coming into NXT.
That's cool. Yeah, and we sort of knew that was probably his path. And you had heard, I think, that we're looking at like a sort of a wrestler coach thing, or do you think he's just going to be a wrestler?
I think the way they brought him in is it's kind of where it's a situation where you don't actually have to specifically say you're a wrestler coach, because Ty Dillinger is a player coach. Ty Dillinger works a lot with the talents there at the Performance Center. He's a contracted wrestler. Maybe someday he might have a job as an agent. But these guys come in as wrestlers, and then if they want to help out, they're probably, basically it's an on-the-job interview in a lot of ways for an agenting position if one were to open up. So Bobby Roode's certainly a great hand. So yeah, it looks like he is coming in. We also we had someone in the chat room note, and I completely forgot what it was, so I'm actually going to skip ahead. The opening match on the show was the tag team clash, the tag team titles on the line. The Revival, American Alpha. What'd you think, Rich?
I loved it. Yeah, it sucks because it's kind of been completely overshadowed, but
all of them. Yeah.
There was some people in our review, our staff review on voiceofwrestling.com mentioned that it was kind of formulaic. It sort of had the same style as a lot of the American Alpha matches and a lot of the Revival matches. But I love that aspect of it. I mean, it's a formula that we saw here, and I put in the review that it was essentially a classic Southern style tag on steroids. It was a lot quicker, a lot more fast paced than what we consider those classic Southern style tags or the classic tag matches, if you will. But it's a formula that's worked for a long time. It's a formula that I'm not sick of yet, and like I still love, and I still got into it. And yeah, I loved it. I went 4.5 stars with it because I thought American Alpha just showed a ton of fire at the beginning too, and that just made it really, really awesome too with the crowd behind them the entire way. It was classic. You had your established baby faces, your established heels. You had the the heels beating down on one of the baby faces, the baby face in peril. He eventually got the hot tag, but then there were some other cool aspects as well. You had the Revival. I forgot which one did. I think Wilder went underneath the ring to sort of break up a pinfall, which was really cool.
Yep.
You had a few blind tags in there, and like really innovative blind tags as well. And that's it fits again. It fits like the tag team or the classic tag team match formula, but it's a great formula. To me, if you can nail that formula and make it work and make it happen and in this atmosphere with this crowd or whatever, that's you nailed it. Like I don't know what else you really could have asked from this match from these guys. And I think American Alpha are showing, just tremendous. Like Gable's so good beyond his years. And Jason Jordan, I mentioned this on Twitter, he's the guy that's a testament to sticking with someone. I mean, this guy has been there since FCW. We joke on the podcast of how long he's been there, and they stuck with the guy. They let him have his troubles. They let him have a few different gimmicks. They let him have, do a few things. And now they got it. Like this guy is clicking. In that match alone, he just showed so much charisma and was just on fire when he came in. Like he hit a dropkick that was every bit as good as any Okada or your boy Jeff Jarrett, like that level of awesome dropkick or whatever. And just you can tell in his face and his facials and the way he reacts. It's just that's a guy who's just got it. It's clicked. He's got it, and it's like, man, this guy's a super good talent. And then you have Gable too, who's just beyond his years good. And that's a team that you look at down the line. It's just like it'd be a massive failure if they're not huge tag team stars or multiple time champions or one of the pillar teams of that division for a while. And the Revival, you can say the same thing with them as well. I mentioned, again on Twitter, I said I want them on the main roster because I think they're perfect for the main roster. But I also think they're so perfect as like gatekeepers in NXT. Like if they for the next 10 years were just the team you had to beat before you eventually reached the championship or reached the main roster, if they just stayed in NXT for 10 years and did that, I think I'd be okay with that too.
I really like the tag team match. I thought it was it was choppy in some spots, but not to the point where you had to really worry about it. And a testament to these guys too, and how well Jordan and Gable work as a team, and great on Jordan for coming into his own. Some guys need a tag partner to kind of get some energy their way. Some guys get held back by one. Shawn Michaels, a classic case who got held back by one. Jason Jordan, I mean, he needed Chad Gable to come up, provide some energy, prop up a little bit. The crowd there knew the finish was coming and got up on their feet one tag before the final tag that brings Gable in, because they're so smooth. They knew exactly what was happening. And it's a sign where predictability sometimes can be good, because they're like, oh, that looks great. That looks great. Oh my gosh, it's coming. There's the tag. Oh, it's coming. There's the tag. And there it is. And they were all the way with them. That final sequence with Chad Gable too, where they were doing all the reversals, a lot of it. Sometimes it's hard. You get a little caught up. You get maybe roll a little too hard. Maybe you don't quite catch somebody and it looks a little weird and wonky. That one didn't. They did really well. I go up there. It's going to be overshadowed by the big Shinsuke debut and even maybe the main event. But that match certainly did not fail to deliver.
The one botch kind of sucked, but everybody sort of
sucked, yeah.
Again, to their credit, they all kind of got back on track in a little bit. They went to a rest hold a little bit, let the crowd, chant Botchamania or whatever. Dawson or whoever kind of played with it and went, yeah, okay, whatever, Botchamania. And then within a few minutes, it was over. And you know what I mean? In a minute, they were able to kind of say, all right, get it out. We fucked up. Yeah. And then then it was fine. And then they were good to go. And that's a testament to the crowd too. They wanted to let them have it a little bit, but still we're like, you know what? Hey, we still want you guys to have a good match. So it's like, we're not going to let that ruin the entire match. And it really didn't, but it was one of those brief moments. You're like, oh no, guys, don't because Gable being how young he is and all those guys, they could have all just froze up and went, oh my God, what do we do now? Yeah. But it within a minute they were back on track and everything it looked like it didn't even happen. So exactly.
It flowed pretty well. We had Austin Aries, Baron Corbin. Austin Aries making his, what was essentially his TV debut, because they never showed that match he taped at Full Sail. His TV debut with the company, Austin Aries, goes on to defeat Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin basically controlling the entire match. Classic big guy. Little guy squeaks it out at the end. A little surprised, because everyone in our Voices of Wrestling preview panel chose Baron Corbin to get the win here. But Austin Aries gets the win, and maybe we should have seen that coming. This is a new guy to the promotion, and Baron Corbin doesn't necessarily have to suffer from a big loss. But were you surprised with Austin Aries getting the win?
I was a little bit, because my thought was with Austin Aries coming in that wasn't a guy that they really had hopes for being anything more than just kind of a nice veteran hand that you sort of use in matches here and there. He gets some wins. He gets some wins, gets some losses. He's just kind of there. He's a gatekeeper in some ways. He's just a smart, cagey veteran that you can sort of put with anybody, and he's going to have a halfway decent match, or he's going to be able to teach them something, or they're going to learn from being in the ring or being in a feud with them. So I didn't think that it really mattered one way or another if he won or lost here, but I think maybe that's not. Maybe they have higher hopes for him, because having him come in here and beat Baron Corbin, who's a guy that, isn't a star by any means, and not but somebody that they, in a way can protect a few. They protect him a little bit. He's not like a star again, but he's a guy that doesn't lose every single week. He's fairly protected. But yeah, having Aries go and beat him, now maybe we have to sort of change the calculus on what they think of Aries and what Aries his trajectory is on NXT. Because he came in now and he's got a big victory. So
absolutely big victory. We have on the Twitter feed at Shake Them Ropes, the JML says Bamaye means kill him. In the language in Zaire. So I guess, you probably don't want to do that.
That's probably not a bad idea. Okay.
Yeah, you probably don't want to do that exactly. Again, thanks everyone for watching in the live chat room. This will be an audio podcast. So if you are listening on the audio podcast feed at Voices of Wrestling on the iTunes or Stitcher or RSS feed, thank you all for listening to this podcast. Hopefully we get it up soon enough to where you have time to listen to it before WrestleMania and all this other crazy stuff keeps happening. What was next? We had the big Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn match. We talked about that one. That match went 21 minutes, getting the most time of the night. So, they let Sami Zayn and Shinsuke go out there and have a big WrestleMania-worthy, maybe even more than WrestleMania-worthy match. They did not cut them down one bit. They let them go out there. The shortest match of the night was the Austin Aries Baron Corbin match, going about 12 minutes. And then we had Asuka and Bayley. Asuka and Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship. I had thought that Asuka was going to win this one all along. She does. But what was interesting about this match is the after effects when Bayley looked just crestfallen that she had lost her title. almost to the point where you think she probably has to stick around in NXT to try and get it back, or at least that's the story. And maybe she's not going right up to the main roster, or maybe she does both.
Yeah, it would be. In a way, I love the finish because I think it was cool to sort of change the. In one way, I love the tag match formula, like I said in the beginning. But in this, I like that they sort of deviated from what we consider the major NXT women's matches format, and it wasn't a bunch of finishers at the end. It was Asuka got her in this lock, and Asuka is just a dangerous woman that when she gets you in a submission or something like that, you're done. And it wasn't that Bayley tapped out. Bayley doesn't look any worse for the wear for passing out. It was just like, you got me in this lock. I had no way of getting out of it. And, that's how you won. So I think that was a good way to sort of finish it. But at the same time, like you said, it would just seem really weird now if Bayley went, okay, well, I'm done. Like, that's it for me. Like, I tried and then I lost. Like, there's got to be another two. I mean, there has to be a second match. Is it maybe something where she goes on the main roster and does some things on NXT for a while? Maybe it's one of those deals where maybe she has one more match and then loses, and that's how it happens. Because there's got to be a second match to this. There's no way that this is it. They wouldn't do that pass out finish without there being some reason to try to get these back together, or have at least another match on one of these other specials. But we'll see. But I enjoyed it. I think it wasn't. It deviated from the formula a little bit, but I think it did it in a really good way, and it really made Asuka look really dangerous too, and I think that was the intention there. But Bayley doesn't look any worse for the wear as well from the finish, so I think mission accomplished for sure.
Yeah, and we had this situation with Sasha Banks, where Sasha Banks was up on the main roster doing her thing while still defending the NXT Championship, and then going after a rematch for Bayley. So you can absolutely bring Bayley up if that is a plan to bring her up soon. You can still have the NXT stuff, because hell, they're taping a month's worth of TV tomorrow at Access. So she's there, obviously. She doesn't have to, keep flying away from WWE events. So a lot of time there. But yeah, Asuka getting the win here. Asuka and Bayley. Another long line of matches with the women's division that completely deliver. Will this be the best Divas match of the weekend?
Oh boy,
because the other contender's a three-way, and all three of them are going to try to go crazy.
Yeah, I think that three-way. I mean, the problem is I want to say yes, because I think here's what I'll say. I think they all want to have a great match, and I think there's probably a plan to have a great match, but it could be a thing where even the day of, they show up and they say, okay, cool, we got, that where maybe today they learned, okay, we got 15 minutes, here's what we're gonna do. And then, it's one of those deals, and we hear about this all the time, where you get to the show and they go, you know what, now it's 11. Sorry. Right. Like the Flow Rider concert went long. So like we're planning for this to go a little bit longer, or The Rock's going to come out and God only knows how long he's going to have a live mic for. So it's one of those things where, I mean, extenuating circumstances might prevent them from having what, as good of a match but I think I really do think that they're capable of having just as good, if not a better match than this. Because I thought the thing with this match, while I enjoyed it, I think to me, it wasn't intended to be like, let's go out there and just tear the house down and have a spectacular match. This was more of a story match. This is more of a, Jeff Hawkins, your co-host, is in the chat room now and said people were waiting for that Bayley comeback, and it never came. And that's, in one breath, it probably limited it from being that top tier type of match, or like a really, really solid match in that way. But in another way, it helped get the story that they're trying to do with Asuka. So that I thought was cool, that there wasn't that comeback. There wasn't a bunch of kickouts. There wasn't that epicness, that last 5 minutes where they're just kicking out and going nuts or whatever. It was a little bit more grounded, and I thought that was cool because it led to that sort of gasping reaction when it happened. And now you've established Asuka. So yeah, I think at Mania, those Becky, Sasha, and Charlotte could have a better match. I just wonder about circumstances.
Yeah.
You never know. Like, is that match going to go 10 minutes? Is it going to go 20? That's what I always worry about. So I don't know.
You have the story with them. It's probably smart for NXT to start going more storyline based than in-ring athleticism.
Well, when the crop of women that are coming up, and no offense to them, but they're just not ready.
But they're all new. All
right,
they're all super new.
Here's 18 minutes. Go have a fantastic match. Like, okay, like
it's going to be tougher. So that's smart to kind of transition. You still have some of the workhorses there in the division, but it's not quite like how it was. Jeff Hawkins is on the show. Jeff Hawkins will be our regular episode of Shake Them Ropes. We're going to get all of Jeff's thoughts from the weekend. Sunday night, and obviously in the Voices of Wrestling podcast too. Joe Lanza, he's in Dallas for all this stuff. Joe Lanza didn't watch TakeOver tonight. He's tweeting from the Voices of Wrestling account right now about a grimy lucha show that he's
Martinez Promotions lucha show. That's
I mean, I only kind of glanced a little bit at Joe's tweets, but from the sounds of it, it's possible he's going to get kidnapped at the end of this and become one of the grimy luchadors. So I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, because he was saying when he showed up to the show, and he came with a few other guys as well, including Rob Viper, who's an established lucha fan or whatever, and he said that when they were waiting to go in, Rob was talking to a few guys. All of a sudden, like, vans pulled up, and like luchadors would just get out of the van, and then like the van would buzz away, and it's like, what the, like, La Parca just like emerges from a dusty van and just like goes into the show. So yeah, I think like now we know how luchadors are created. They they're kidnapped at a young age, and sent to various lucha shows. Sometimes you go to Texas, sometimes you're in Monterey. You never know where you're going to go. So yeah, I think after today, hopefully Joe will still come up on Sunday, but he might be touring Tijuana by the time we see him next. So
he might be, and
I mean, if so.
And listen, that guy can run a territory too. I mean, you bring him down to Tijuana, you better get ready to pay your money. So, the main event of the show was Finn Balor, Samoa Joe. I didn't know how to go with this as far as who would win. I tried to put it in place of, okay, if Finn Balor's coming up Monday, this is what's going to happen. If Finn Balor's not coming up Monday, this is what's going to happen. And now, after it's done, Finn Balor wins. I still don't know if he's going to come up on Monday. I can't wait for this Raw. I'm so shocked. Finn Balor gets the win here. Samoa Joe was kind of hindered by a cut on his eye that we had people in our chat room saying was pretty gruesome. It may not have looked that way on TV, but there was blood spurting out of his eye, so they had to keep checking.
There was a point where they zoomed in at him, and you saw it was black and like, it was a disgusting cut.
It was not good. So Samoa Joe got the cut, and very first moments of the match too. So luckily it wasn't even worse, because we could have had a 1-minute main event, which I'm sure is everyone's worst nightmare. The only thing that could have been worse is if, Sami Zayn or Shinsuke got hurt coming down to the ring, and you say that will never
Sami pops out his shoulder again.
You say that'll never happen, but Sami's done it before. So we had this Finn Balor Samoa Joe match. They went 17. Like many of the matches on this show, although Austin Aries and Baron Corbin felt all of 12 minutes that they were, every other match felt shorter than the actual time, including this Finn Balor Samoa Joe. What'd you think about Finn Balor?
That's testament to those NXT specials, definitely. Because my buddy Dan, who I was watching the show with, went, "Oh my god, how many matches are left? This thing's flying by." And I was like, "They always do." Like that's a testament to those NXT shows. It's the quickest 2 hours. I always say those takeover shows. But yeah, I enjoyed this match. I put in my review that I was kind of conflicted because in one sense the blood, it helped the match in a lot of ways, because there was a part where, I think it was right when he tossed Finn Balor over the guardrail. And that was a sick toss too. I don't know if he was like kind of upset, because that looked like it was just insane. Like he just threw him in, like part of, Finn hit the guardrail or whatever. And then Joe just like turns around and his face is just covered in blood or whatever. And I'm like, whoa, that's a cool visual. And then it seemed like his chops were a little bit harder. His kicks were a little bit harder. So it just works, because you get this bloody Samoan that's just beating the hell out of a guy. There's blood, blood rolling down his face. That was kind of cool. So I was like, wow, that actually, the blood sort of enhanced it. And then we got to the point where, and I don't want to get into this, because I'm sure there'll be many think pieces in the next like 2 weeks talking about, hey, should you stop a match for a wrestler's well-being? Should you do health checks? What I don't want to get into that now. That's a different topic for a different day, but you have that come in, and that just derailed a lot of it as well. I mean, you're getting these points in the match where you can tell Balor's up, and then he's not really sure what to do, and the ref's got to stop him. Yeah. So that in a sense hurt it to an extent, because it was just like, you kept getting derailed. But then there were parts where I was like, the derailing is kind of cool, because it brings like a mystique to this match. Like, wow, this is a serious fight or whatever. Then it happened like 2 or 3 more times. It's like, okay, now we're getting ridiculous. And every time Joe would get to the canvas, they were checking on him or whatever. So in one breath, the blood, I think, helped, because I thought it was cool and it added a little bit of ambiance to the match. Yeah. But then in the other sense, it was also like, it's really kind of derailing it. But the derailing, it wasn't every time that it derailed it. So I'm very conflicted on this match. I just, when it was over, I just wasn't sure what I thought of it. Even now, even talking about it, right, I haven't quite figured out, what I think of it.
I enjoyed the work. The question we'll have is, come Tuesday, where does everything go? And you have now an excuse if they want to keep doing Samoa Joe in the title picture. Samoa Joe bleeding right away. It's the blood. It got him tired. His momentum was taken away. You have this built-in excuse now if you want to keep Samoa Joe in that picture. And it's NXT. They've done a follow-up on legitimate stuff before. I have no doubt that this will now play in some way. This bleeding, the being stopped by the doctors, and all this stuff. And it worked too, because Samoa Joe looked like a monster. He looked like he was super pissed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was awesome. Yeah.
No, you're right. It played right into there. Does Finn Balor come up to the main roster by Tuesday SmackDown?
By Tuesday SmackDown. I'm gonna go no. I still think no. I don't know. It just seems like one of the issues that we still look at, and I don't know what you think of this, is that if you take Balor off there, I mean, yes, anybody could sort of take that spot, but is there anybody ready to sort of take that spot if he were to sort of disappear for a little bit, or have one or two more matches and then he's out, or drops the title at a special or whatever, then he's out? Is there people? Are there people ready to sort of take that spot? I don't know, and that's something that we say that now, but then they immediately just put the rocket ship on some guy, and it's like, oh yeah, duh, like of course it's that guy. But I just feel like, I don't know, he just seems like such a mainstay for that company and doing stuff there. So I don't know, it's just hard to visualize him leaving quite yet. But
no, you're right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I would say, I mean, you have Austin Aries there, you have Baron Corbin, you have Shinsuke Nakamura, you have Apollo Crews. I mean, rise some of these guys up who have been rumbling in the mid card there. You have the tag team division. There may be enough for a 1 hour show. If they were, as far as touring, I don't know if you can take Finn Balor and Bayley off of those, the national tours.
That was Zayn. I mean, that was Zayn's send off for sure. I mean, right? I think
he's done.
Agree.
Oh, he's done. He's not even working the TV tapings tomorrow.
Sure.
Yeah, he's done. That was a send off. They did the live event send off.
In the middle of the ring and they zoom out. You're like, that's it. Bye. Like, have a good one.
Yeah, it's over. So we do this, and it's always impossible to me because I can't remember which match happened specifically on which card, which match was on the same card as another match on NXT Takeover. But I'm going to ask you anyway, Rich, was that the best NXT Takeover of all time?
As you're doing that, I'm looking up on Wikipedia because I got to remember.
It's impossible to know. Like,
yeah, let's see here. Okay.
I don't remember which match. I've been to a couple of takeovers and they were really cool live, but I wouldn't call them any better than that show. I know if I was in there, and my co-host on Shake Them Ropes, Jeff Hawkins, was there. He's in the chat room right now talking on YouTube. And that's a good question, Jeff. If you're still in the chat room, was that your best takeover? And was it
my pick, or what I remember my pick being, is that Our Evolution show, the takeover, and that was the one with Zayn and Neville. But I'm looking at the other matches. You had Owens, CJ Parker's the opener. That was good.
It was great.
Then you got Lucha Dragons and Vaudevillains, Corbin, Ty Dillinger, Finn Balor, Tommy versus the Ascension, which was okay, but not spectacular. And then of course you had Charlotte and Sasha, and then Zayn and Neville. That would be my pick before, but this one's better. I think this one might be better. And then the Rival had a really good undercard, but the main event was just that Owens Zayn match, which was fun, but it was the knockout where Owens was just destroying him. So I don't know if that one's it.
Yeah, Jeff Hawkins in the chat says the one with the Dusty Classic, which would have been Sasha Banks and Bayley 2, the Iron Man match, if I'm not mistaken.
That's Brooklyn, correct?
No, the first one was the Brooklyn match. The Dusty Classic was the one at Full Sail, which featured the Iron Man.
Respect. Okay, yeah, let's look at Respect here real quick. Off the top of my head, I think I like this one better. Let's see. That was Balor and Joe versus Wilder and Dawson. Of course, Corbin and Rhino versus Jordan and Gable. That was good. Asuka, Dana Brooke. That was solid too. Apollo Crews, Tyler Breeze. That was okay. Balor, Joe. Yeah, this is a pretty good contender. I would probably go with tonight, or tomorrow at this point. Now that we're recording,
I love recency. The last thing to happen is the greatest thing to have ever happened.
No, I mean, this Respect show is pretty good. I think Jeff's on something here.
The Respect was great. This show right here tonight was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Ted, in the chat room for hitting the thumbs up button. If you have not hit the like button, the thumbs up, please do so. It's what allows more people to kind of see these videos, and maybe we can get a larger group coming in on Sunday.
On Sunday, we
WrestleMania show.
We need to get 300 easily for WrestleMania. Come on.
I know. And now, Rich, so that is NXT Takeover. Of course, you'll have more with Joe Lanza on the Voices of Wrestling podcast. Joe Lanza will be live on our show on Sunday night. voicesofwrestling.com/YouTube.
Tomorrow too. If he hasn't been, to somebody put in the chat room, skinned by a Tinder match. At some point, I'm going to try to call him Saturday and get some live reports from this Martinez Promotions Lucha show. And he was at Evolve 58 too, which had just spectacular, another 5-star match that I reviewed. That's 2 for me in one day, which is rare because I probably had maybe 6 in my entire life. So that's just a fantastic day of wrestling. But that Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr. was fantastic, and he was there live. So I'm going to try to call him. We'll see what happens. Not guaranteeing anything, but we'll try to get maybe a quick, brief podcast, a live report from him at some point tomorrow.
Catch all the reviews of every show that's happening, any review that you could possibly imagine. Go to voicesofwrestling.com. The last thing I want to ask you about, Rich, is Brad Stevens, the coach of the year in the Eastern Conference.
If you saw, I was looking at my phone a few times and I was trying to see because I kept getting reports of like Celtics are leading or close game alert. Yeah, Brad, he's such a fantastic coach, and it's like, in Chicago, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, and watching Fred Hoiberg, former college coach, try to manage personalities or whatever, and it's just like you're sick to your stomach. And then you look at Brad Stevens, who just immediately came in there, immediately put his
surprise hire.
Yeah, exactly. Just came out of nowhere and put his stamp on there and just has embraced that. And that's a guy now that you look at, he's going to be an NBA coach for the next 30 years, because that guy he's got it. He knows what he's doing. And what he's able to do with that Celtics team that really, they don't have a star. Like, they really don't. Like, that's we always talk about in the NBA, or anybody that follows the NBA knows, you need a few stars to win a championship. You need at least, 2 at bare minimum, 3, and then you're pretty good. That's a team that really, like, you got Isaiah Thomas, but he's not a star. And you got, like Evan Turner having a career year, and just have these guys that are just like, in general, they're good, but they're not, they're not fantastic. But it's just a team that just buys into his thing, and it's interesting to see. And that East is wide open.
It's crazy.
It's not out of the realm of possibility that the Boston Celtics are in the NBA Finals with a rematch, maybe with the Golden State Warriors, and they've had the Warriors number this year. So
no, right now I would still put the Cavs number 1 in the East. I'd probably have the Heat number 2, and then I would have the Celtics. Anyone else really is kind of just all over the place. It could be anyone out of the East. But Brad Stevens, if you're not sure, the Celtics beat the Golden State Warriors in Golden State at the Golden State home. It was their first loss of the season, and partially in some of last season too. So now they're at 8 losses. The record, they can't get to 10, right? If they want to break this record, and they still have 2 games with the Spurs left. So it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, this is, because you got those 2 Spurs, but the Spurs are always interesting. You never know if they're just going to say, you know what, we don't care.
It's possible too, because I think it's the last game of the season, I believe, is Spurs Warriors. It's close to it. It's either the second or last. Second to last. Yeah, so maybe if they're 1 game out and they want that 1 seed, they're going to try. We'll see. Because if they beat them both times and they tie, they will be the 1 seed. So
what's interesting too, and I forgot, I think it was Zach Lowe on the Low Post podcast. He's ESPN, great ESPN basketball writer. He was talking about an interesting thing is that the Spurs and the Warriors were both, at the point that he recorded that podcast, undefeated at home, and that's something that's kind of cool. Like, no one's ever done that. Like, there was an old Celtics team that had 1 loss. There was a few teams. Well, now the Warriors are out, but the Spurs still can be a team that just was undefeated
no losses
at home the entire year. Like, I know that Popovich doesn't really go for those sort of records, and that's not something he does, but
now it's not just a record. Now it's a race for the 1 seed in the West.
So it becomes, those are must-watch games now, just like this show, and just like that, Zayn Nakamura. These are must-watches that you got to see.
Now, do you understand what I just did there, everybody? The K&P show. Rich Kraetsch.
I wasn't sure if that was the
John Playtech. Voicesofwrestling.com. If you go to the bottom of the page, there's a section for some of our non-wrestling podcasts, including Lanza Unfiltered and the K&P show. So if you like sports and want to hear Rich talk about them, go check out the K&P show. That was a little preview. Next episode, they will be talking about Hassan Whiteside and wondering if his bench play has gotten him a max contract offer this offseason. Next on the K&P show. Rich, do you have anything else for the people before we sign off on this NXT Takeover night, which is now officially, and where you live, April 2nd?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think just a must-watch show. If you're thinking of, oh man, there's so much to watch this weekend, I'm just going to skip that. I mean, you're not skipping it. You're not allowed to. You have to watch it. There's plenty of time tomorrow to watch it. Plenty of time Sunday before WrestleMania. So yeah, you have no excuse to not watch it. You have to watch it, and you have to, even if you're pressed for time. If you're like, oh my god, I have 20 minutes is all I have. Zayn Nakamura just has to be watched. You cannot finish this weekend without watching that match. And I think I think everybody that follows us or is watching this now knows that and probably has watched it. But in case you haven't, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. And honestly, you might want to rewatch it because I think you might appreciate a little bit more of it even watching it a second time. So absolutely, yeah, it was a stellar show, maybe the best takeover ever, and that Zayn Nakamura is going to show up on our match of the year list. I guarantee it, and I almost promise it'll be in our top 10. Like I see that being a number 1 on a lot of people's lists already.
I want to thank everyone who stuck around for the entire show. We lost 30% of the audience during basketball talk, which is actually better than
That's fine though. We were done anyway.
Better than I anticipate. We were done. We are signing off for the night. I am going to be back with Joe Lanza on Sunday night. Rich will be with Joe next week on the Voices of Wrestling podcast. We'll have Shake Them Ropes. Just go to voicesofwrestling.com and look at everything. Just go there, look at everything. Click on an ad or two if you would be so kind. And we will be back on Sunday here on the VOW Live channel. I want to thank everyone for watching. We are officially done. So long.